two, one, go.
Good afternoon and welcome back to our Cloud Next series. I hope you had great lunch or something light or heavy you took. I hope you're ready for the next two sessions of our series. And for the first session this afternoon or this break after the lunch break, uh, we are going to have our speaker all the way from South Africa, who goes by the name Koketso Motseothata, who'll be taking us through game design and web development in Python. And yeah, so
Who'll
he's
be
a game
taking us through
developer that
game
I
design.
said for the people who are into game development. This is for you. So yeah, he's also a machine learning software engineer. He's also enthusiastic about robotics and data science. Yeah, for maybe more information about him, he will share with us as he takes us through his session. So yeah, Koketso, take us through game development in Python.
All right. Am I audible? Can you guys hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear
All
you.
right. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world watching this. I go by the name of Koketso Motseothata, but also famously known as Cap Fresh, aka the coolest kid in STEM right now. So today we're gonna be talking all things Python game development, and welcome actually for your time, your efforts for actually joining the session. I'm really excited to actually talk to you guys about what the world of game development and also what actually happens within the world of gaming as well. So there are three important things I'm going to cover today, which is game development, esports, and competitive gaming. So guys, I'm really excited about this. I hope you guys are excited about this. So let's jump right into it and let's begin. So I've already done my welcomings. Thank you very much for tuning in. So let's go. So you're probably wondering what's the agenda for today. The agenda for today is I'm going to be talking about what exactly is a game, right? So we're going to be talking about what is game development and all its technologies. So my expertise is game development within Python, and we're going to be talking about the libraries and the things that actually help us to be developing games within Python. And also, as a closing, I'll be talking about the future of gaming and the gaming industry as a whole. All right. So, a bit about myself. So my name is Koketso. I'm all the way from South Africa. I am a certified a game developer, using Python and so forth. I mean, amongst other qualifications that I have, I've got a BS in computer science. I'm doing my second degree in applied mathematics. I've done a bit of robotics. I've done a bit of data science. I've done data analytics. So for me, the world of tech is very broad in my sense. But for today, obviously, I'm gonna be, just sharing a very passionate about myself and an area that I'm really want to focusing on, which is game development using Python. Right. So the first definition is we need to understand what a game is. Right. So basically, a game it's something obviously you want to interact with or engage and have fun with. Um, Usually games have series or levels that you have to obviously accomplish until you have a final result, and obviously every game has a beginning and an end, right? And depending on what the game design, the game layout is, every single game should actually aim to fulfill some sort of a need. So you have educational games, you have pleasurable games, and so forth. But all in all, essentially, a game is anything that's digital and interactive, and it is used for amusement, right? So you have to get pleasure out of actually playing a game. So what is game development, right? So basically, there's lots of stages within the game development phase, right? So what we're going to be doing, what we want to talk about is game development. Basically, is the art of the creation and describing the design, right? And also talking about from a conceptual point of view all the way to execution and actually having a full product, right? So basically, a game we have to really compare comprise and think about what are the different stages of what game development is all about, right? So we need to also consider about the game design, the buildings, the features, the test and the release of what gaming is all about, right? So while you're creating a game, it's very important to think about the game mechanics. Things like rewards, how many players can be involved, how many levels, and so forth. Because you must understand, with game development, if you develop a game that's too easy, it's going to end up becoming boring. But if you design a game that's too difficult, it's then going to end up being, it's not going to be motivating for your user to actually interact with it. Okay, so now we're talking about the structure of how you go about in terms of game development. So before going and designing or thinking of, creating a game, you actually need to do some research about it. So that's where the history of the game development comes into play. Are there any things that's similar in the market that's doing the same thing? What kind of game is it? Is it in the sports field? Is it more of a first person shooting kind of a game? So I mean, there's the difference between like your FIFA and your CSGOs and your those kind of games. So you have to really understand like what kind of history does it have. You have to look at the market. Is there a market for a game like this? Are you not really repeating what your competitors are actually doing? So we have to do that. And then we go into game architecture. So game architecture is the planning of how the whole game actually is going to look like. Big games such as Grand Theft Auto, right? We all know that it has many, 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 many levels, as well as a free play mode, right? So despite of how huge the game is, we still have to have a game structure, because then obviously that's when we keep things all together, and we also can have glitches and things can go terribly wrong. Then we have game design. Certain things have to look in place in terms of how your game layout and the design is looking like. So meaning the appeal in terms of how does it look like. Things should not look very weird and obscure and out of place in your game. And then finally you go into the development phase in terms of now we are creating the game, right? So in Python, it is a programming language. I hope some of us are kind of familiar with the name, even if you're not from a programming background. But basically, Pygame, it is a cross-platform set of Python modules, which is designed to actually help us write and design video games, right? So it includes things like computer graphics. It includes things like geometric shapes, colors, which actually help us to manipulate images and so forth within a game, right? So it helps us to comprise a basic holistic looking game, right? So these are the type of games that I've personally designed myself using Python, which is Pygame, right? So Pygame, basically, it helps us to create 2D kind of games, right? So 2D actually looks like, these are the examples of what 2D actually looks like. So now I'm going to be talking about the future of game development. So there's a lot of careers that you can actually choose within the game development space, because there's things like sound engineers. You can have a researcher. You can have a designer. You can have an architect. You can have a design specialist and so forth. So there's a lot of careers that you can actually go into in terms of just game development. You don't have to just be a developer on your own, right? I mean, there are teams. There are, you can be a solo, and so nowadays we call them indie developers, independent developers. But there's definitely other careers that you can go into when it comes to game development. So now let's talk about the future of what the gaming industry comprises, and which is esports and competitive online gaming. So for those of you guys who don't know what esports is basically, think about it as watching the athletics or watching the World Cup, but people playing games, right? So esports, also known as electronic sports, esports in that sense, is a form of a sporting competition using video games. So right now we have a lot of competitions that are actually being hosted online, well, because of the the pandemic and so forth. But traditionally, people would go out into stadiums. They would pack out stadiums just to go watch people compete with one another, right? So that's why esports and competitive gaming has now become a new culture. Apparently, now all of a sudden, esports and competitive heroes are like the new coolest kids in the block, right? So we don't celebrate our normal athletes in that sense, but our esports players are also now shining and resonating and becoming household names. Right. So just to continue, right now, a big reason why people actually watch esports and actually engage in such things is because of the social interaction between other customers, consumers of the sport. Right. So if I like Overwatch or I like Fortnite or I like CS:GO, I want to share that experience with other people, and that's why it has now grown into like a huge spectacle, where people really interact and support the love of the game, right? So moving right along, so these are like kind of interesting facts that I want to just touch on. Is that did you know that right now, esports is the fourth biggest sporting revenue in the world, right? So when I mean the fourth, obviously, taking over the Olympics, the Super Bowl, and F1 racing, right? So those are right now like the biggest sporting events in terms of revenue, right? And it is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's not even mainstream yet, right? It's a multi-billion, and it's predicted that in the next by 2025, it could possibly even be $1 trillion industry, right? Currently, right now, the richest esports player is worth $6.8 million, right? So, guys, there's a lot of money within this space. So you can obviously imagine and convert this number into your currency and actually see how much worth is it, right? And the top played games right now, it's Dota 2, CS:GO, Fortnite, League of Legends, and Overwatch. And it's very surprising not to even see our typical, like FIFA. That's not mentioned here, but there are really bigger games out there that we're not even aware of, but are really, really drawing crowds and are generating this kind of money. And we've also seen very interesting people that we actually know, such as your Drakes, Snoop Dogg's, and Travis Scott, that are actually invested within the esports field. So Drake actually is a partner of an esports team called 100 Thieves. Snoop Dogg has his own gaming channel. Travis Scott, in the beginning of the year, if you guys don't know, he actually hosted a live concert on an esports platform and so forth. So we've seen people like Ashton Kutcher, Shaq O'Neal, Ellen DeGeneres, so these people are really making sure that they're investing and pumping money into the esports field, right? And ladies and gentlemen, that definitely concludes my presentation and my talk about esports and gaming and so forth. So hopefully, if there is any questions, we can definitely dive into that. Thank you, thank you.
Wow. Uh, Thank you so much, Koketso, for the presentation about game development. Not many of us are really familiar with gaming and stuff. Yeah, pretty uh, short and straightforward. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe I'm quite curious. I'm quite interested. I really want to hear, about your whole, gaming experience. If you could shed some light and talk to us about this.
All right, so I don't know if I've got time. Maybe I can actually demonstrate something I was actually working on recently. Let me quickly. Right. So, but personally, in terms of my journey, in terms of the whole field, um, I got into gaming at a very young age, and I think a lot of us actually, that's even in the tech space, they will tell you that I used to play a lot of video games. I used to yeah, so I used to play a lot of these games, and someone once actually told me that instead of just consuming all of this time playing a game, why don't you actually then think about creating your own game? And for me, I was like, how is that even possible? Like, is that even a reality? Is it possible? So that's how I actually got introduced into the tech space. Um, I was introduced into the creation side of the thing because I didn't want to just be a consumer. I wanted to be a producer as well. So I then got into the habit of trying to create, and my creation also led me in terms of teaching and demonstrating other people, because I really feel that a lot of people don't know about these areas, these possibilities that we also grew up in a taboo space that we told that gaming is for kids or kind of thing.
Could you please stop sharing your screen so that you can be visible now?
Um, Sorry, I can't hear you. You broke there for a second.
I said, could you please stop sharing your screen so that we can see you well?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's better.
Oh, okay. All right, all right, all right. So yeah, yeah, um, so also it led me into like teaching people how to actually create their own games and so forth.
So that's always interesting. I really like the way you say that because you learn about games, you're playing games on the programs, you had all these ideas, why not create them that people can actually use? That is really a nice, initiative. And that is something just if we could apply that mentality to things that we do. I mean, if I'm learning this or if I'm checking websites, why not build websites? Stuff like that. It's really interesting. So how easy is it to get into that? Is it something like
Sorry,
getting
Tavi. I think I'm losing you there for a second.
can you hear me now? Are you able to hear me? Well, can someone from the audience tell me if they can hear me?
I think there's some echo that is coming from Koketso's side, so he could just be like muting when he's not talking so that he can hear you better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
So
yes,
Koketso, you can just unmute yourself when you are about to talk, and then also mute when Tab is talking, so that you don't have to hear the echo, because it's because of the echo.
what
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I think it's frozen. I think it's frozen. It could be the network issues.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Um.
Um.
uh,
Well. Huh. So what do we do from here? I think we should try and get to him. Yeah. I think it's almost time. It's almost time for our second session. Hmm. Okay. Let's see. Ah,
yeah. I think most people wanted to really understand like how the gaming development industry is when it comes to like getting into that space itself. Um, because people maybe already know that gaming is just for consoles and all that, or maybe it's not that marketable as people may think it is. So those are kind of the questions like people were trying to ask. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I can imagine. So I think we'll just give him like just give it some few minutes to see if he's going to come back. Uh, well, as the next speaker also tries to get ready for the last presentation for the day. Oh, he's excited. Oh, yeah, he is back. Koketso, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you. I think we definitely lost each other there for like the last 5 minutes or so.
Yeah. Well, okay. But what I was really asking is, how easy is it to get into web development? Like,
Okay, so in terms of web development side of things, it's actually not that as hard as people would think. The one thing I would definitely advise people is that learn the basics in terms of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You know, if you master the core fundamentals and the basics of that, you know, you can really outshine um, your web development skills. And if I-
I
I'm
think I meant game development. Sorry for that.
Oh, in game development.
Yes,
Okay,
game development.
that is a bit tricky because you know it all depends on what your goal is. If you are trying to develop something to publish to the market, research is always going to be a very important factor to you because you don't want to develop something that's already there, and you don't want to seem as if like you're just mimicking or copying someone's idea. And also with game development, you have to be creative. You have to be in a space of being in a creative environment, someone that has a lot of ideas because you're just because you have an idea, it does not necessarily mean it's always going to be the same way as it is. And as developers, I think we also can share that testimony that you're walking into a project thinking that okay, everything's gonna look A, B, and C, but then when the final development happens, or it's totally something different. So you need to be also be able to be able to be flexible in the sense that you should be able to change things, whether you like it or not. But another thing, you never develop things that you want to for yourself. You always want to make sure that you are a producer for the consumer, right? You always want to put yourself and create products that people are going to enjoy for themselves, not for yourself. Sorry, I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Oh, sorry for that. Sorry. Someone is asking, this is the process of developing a game for web deployment on computer or mobile platform.
So, as I said, it all depends on what your end goal is. So, in terms of deployment versus console, but for now, there is a huge boom in terms of mobile. So how would you start in mobile game development? Even people in at Python are actually working on that. They are trying to create a library that actually helps you to create mobile games, because right now mobile gaming, it seems like it's definitely going to be a booming industry.
Okay, that is interesting. Thank you so much for taking time to sit down and talk to us about game development and all. We really appreciate it and all the way to South Africa. Yeah, really amazing. If people any more questions they want to ask you, you can always out to maybe via social media or other platforms. So thank you so much. And for our audience, I hope you've learned quite a number of things from the whole presentation. It's important to do your research. You just don't want to publish something that's already out there. You don't want to look like you're copying something. You just don't get into it. You just need to do good research. You need to be creative and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you so much for that. We'll take a short break and then we'll transition directly to the last session of the day. Yeah, the link to the next session will be shared to you guys. See you. Yeah, see you there. Yeah, the last thing. I mean, we should be excited about all this. you want to learn about digital transformation with IoT and Google Cloud. Yeah.